Hi everyone, this is Balázs from RacingBrick. You saw the reveal yesterday and today I'm opening the box and showing you everything. This is the LEGO Icons 11375 Ferrari F2004 and Michael Schumacher set. I'll show you what's in the box, highlight the most interesting parts of the building process, take a close look at the finished car and minifigure, talk about the wheels and why the outrage was unnecessary, and finally compare it to the two previous historic LEGO Formula 1 releases. If you want to avoid building spoilers, you can use the timestamps below. The box uses the familiar 18+ Icons black design, and this time it really fits the subject. On the front we get Schumacher's logo next to the Ferrari badge, his initials stylized into a Formula 1 car, which is a very nice touch. On the back we see another angle of the car, some highlighted details and the dimensions. Let's open it. The set has 735 pieces, it's rated 18+, costs €90 or dollars, and will be available from the 1st of March. For local prices and pre-order options, check the link below. Inside the box we find 7 numbered bags, the manual with a little anomaly, the sticker sheet and 4 wheels. And yes, apparently one of the Vodafone stickers decided to stick to the manual instead of the sticker sheet. Smaller sets really should get envelopes as well. Hopefully this one will stick properly to the car. A quick word about the wheels, since many people expressed disappointment without doing any background checking. Yes, the wheels are the same size, and no, I do not think this is the mistake we should focus on. More on that later. This is the cover of the manual. Inside we get a short introduction to the F2004 and Michael Schumacher's 7th World Championship title, followed by a brief overview of his time at Ferrari and a comparison between the real car and the LEGO version. Then we jump straight into the build. This is the part list if you're interested, now let's start building. The first assembly is the minifigure on the familiar podium, which looks the same as in the previous two sets. The coat is strong and emotional, especially considering Michael's undisclosed conditions since his 2013 skiing accident. The minifigure has printed torso and legs, a custom head print and a printed helmet. And by the way, this isn't the first Schumacher LEGO minifigure, we already had one in the Racer series more than 20 years ago. The build starts with the base of the car. Those brown plates with holes represent the skid block used in Formula 1. Next comes the rear axle. Some components will look familiar from the previous two cars, but this assembly isn't identical. We then start building the V10 engine before moving to the cockpit with that stickered Ferrari plaque. At the same time, we had some clever angled assemblies for the vents. The engine gets more detailing, the rear axle is completed, and then we move on to a section full of brackets. The front axle is steered, nothing revolutionary here. It uses a similar concept to the previous two cars with minor tweaks. Next up is the front wing, which comes with a whole bunch of white stickers that still make the white plastic look slightly yellow. The nose is mounted on a hinge, and after a few more steps the front wing is complete. Here's the steering wheel, and probably the only printed element in the entire set. This shape worked for the Williams from 1992, but by 2004 Formula 1 steering wheels already looked far more modern, with lots of buttons. This one definitely feels a bit dated. We get more snout building and hinges here, followed by, you guessed it, more stickers. The seat assembly goes in, the front section gets covered up, and the nose is finished. I didn't expect to see a small Technic panel fairing in this set. The toe ball connection with the rods on the other side is a clever solution, and thankfully it's quite solid, you can't rotate it accidentally. Now we move to the rear section. The rear wing goes on, and fun fact, this element originally appeared as the rear wing in the 2025 Speed Champions Formula 1 sets. This is its first appearance in white, and at this point we are almost out of stickers. The last major assembly is the engine cover, which surprisingly turns out to be one of the trickiest sections of the entire build, despite looking quite simple from the outside. Time to mount the wheels. Yes, they are identical, with 4 grooves front and rear, which is actually correct. I will get back to the size question in a moment, because there's another, more interesting inaccuracy here. Before that, one big surprise for Technic builders: after many years, the half bush officially appears in red. The final build is the display stand. It's almost the same as in the other two sets, with only minor internal color changes. And with that, the build is finished. Here's the car on the stand with the minifigure, and overall I think it looks great. The shaping works for me, and most areas are a good approximation of the real F2004 at this scale. Some sponsor logos are smaller than on the real car or slightly repositioned, but that's clearly done to fit LEGO elements. I like the front wing details, although this 2x4 tile in front of the wheels looks a bit out of place. The Technic panel fairing solution works very well, and the side pods with the air intake look accurate. The rear section is a bit busy, but recreating thin carbon fiber aero elements in LEGO at this scale is always a challenge. The rear wing looks good as well. The large white empty spaces where the Marlboro logos should be look a bit strange, but I don't miss the branding itself. It doesn't belong on a LEGO set, and the car did actually race exactly like this in the US and some other countries that year. The barcode replacement came only later. There are a lot of stickers on this car, but that's not unusual for a Formula 1 model. The red ones are fine, but the white ones are still problematic. They are visibly brighter and make the plastic look yellowish. If those white areas were printed, I would be much more forgiving about the rest. I know many people would prefer a fully printed display model at this price point, and I can't really argue with that. Feature-wise, this is a display piece. You can put it on the stand or on its wheels, the steering works within the usual limited range, and if LEGO continues this series with newer F1 cars, they will really need a custom steering wheel element. We also get suspension imitation thanks to the flexibility of the parts, a removable engine cover with the V10 underneath, and brick-built Italian flags. Now let's finally talk about those wheels. These are new elements, light bluish grey rims with very hard rubber tires, now with grooves. They are single-piece elements and can be taken apart. There were a lot of comments about the tire size and groove count, so let's start with a reliable source, Bridgestone's official 2004 regulations. Both front and rear tires had 4 grooves, so that part is correct. The maximum allowed width was 355mm at the front and 380mm at the rear, with a diameter of 660mm. Assuming Bridgestone used the maximum sizes, that's a 25mm width difference. Scaled down to this model with a diameter of around 49mm and a width of 27mm, that difference becomes less than 2mm. You would barely notice it, and I'm pretty sure most people couldn't even tell two different tire sets apart visually. To add some context, that difference would be smaller than the width difference of the Speed Champions tires at a much smaller scale. This isn't like modern Formula 1 where the difference can be up to 10 centimeters. In larger sets like 1/8 scale Technic, that is very visible. Just look at these 3D printed replacement tires and the width difference. I complained about this several times. So in my opinion, LEGO didn't need to make separate front and rear tires here. What they should have done instead is left and right tires. Bridgestone tires seem to have directional arrows indicating rotation. On one side of the LEGO car the arrows are correct, but on the other side they point the wrong way. In the manual, both display models are correct, but once you turn the LEGO model around, one side is technically inaccurate. It's a small detail, but if we are talking about accuracy, this would have been easier to fix, and for me far more noticeable than tire width. Finally, let's compare it to the previous cars. Here they are side by side, and together they make a very strong display collection. The shapes are different enough to avoid feeling repetitive, even though some sections are clearly related. From a building experience standpoint, I still slightly prefer the Williams, especially for its engine detailing. But visually, I think the Ferrari might be the best looking one so far, but that's obviously a personal opinion. The last thing to address is the price. Both the McLaren and the Williams launched at €80 or dollars. The Ferrari now comes in at 90, with fewer parts than the Williams. I'm sure people won't love that. A price increase was expected. 3 consecutive years without one would be unusual from LEGO, but I think many would have preferred something like 85 instead. I'm not saying it's justified, but it was predictable. If you really want this set on day one, you can click on the link below and pre-order it during the current Insiders promotion and get 10% back in points. Otherwise, I would suggest waiting. It will likely drop to 70 or even 60 euros fairly quickly. At that price, I think it's a very nice display model. Just make sure you use this side on the stand. So folks, let me know what you think about the build, the look and the minifigure. Let's talk about it in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe with notifications as more exciting LEGO videos are coming soon. See you next time, bye bye.